My quiet mask. You learned early that silence is safer than the truth. People think if you're quiet, you're harmless. If you don't speak, you're invisible. And if you don't react, you don't feel. So I gave them what they wanted every morning. I tied my hair in a loose ponytail, put on soft neutral colors, and walked through the world like I didn't belong to it. At work, I pretended to be deaf and mute, not fully, just enough to make people keep their words sloppy and careless around me. They texted near me, gossiped near me, whispered things they shouldn't have, thinking I couldn't hear or wouldn't. Repeat. I became a shadow in my own story, and I liked it. Until that night. We were at a teen dinner. One of those forced bonding nights with fake laughter and too many mojitos. I sat at the edge of the table, nodding when someone looked my way, smiling just enough so they didn't think I was rude. Leo sat 2 chairs down from me, my boyfriend. Or so I thought. He looked good in dim lighting. White shirt sleeves rolled up, wristwatch gleaming, smiled bright. He leaned in when Lena, my sister, whispered something into his ear. They laughed. I smiled. But inside, I was cataloging everything. The way his hand lingered too long on her arm. The way she tilted her head and blinked slowly, like she wanted him to notice her. I noticed. Hannah sat across from me, my best friend. Her eyes flicked toward them once, then landed on me. She held the look for a second, then dropped it like a hot stone. She knew, still, I didn't react. I never do. Reactions give people power. I sipped my drink. Listened to Miss Carr at the other end of the table complain about interns. I nodded when she mentioned promotions. I watched her fingers fly over her phone screen. Her reflection glimmered. In the glass beside me, I caught glimpses, names, emojis, laughter. Then Cass, our tech lead, leaned closer to me and whispered, "AirDrop on?" I nodded. A second later, my phone buzzed. Voice note received from Cassie. Tapped it. The title read, "You should hear this." I slid the volume down, waited. Press play with shaking hands under the table. Leo's voice. I knew it instantly. She doesn't know. She never hears anything anyway. Lana's laugh followed, sharp, confident. "You kissed me first. Remember?" My stomach dropped. Leo again. Does it matter? She wouldn't even speak if she found out. I don't even think she cares. Clink of glasses, the faint sound of a door opening in the background. Their voices, so clear, like they were proud of it. I paused the audio, locked the phone. My fingers trembled, but my face stayed the same. A smile, calm, flat. No one noticed. When the dinner ended, I signed a goodbye to Jay, my roommate. He nodded, eyes soft. He always watched me like he knew I was pretending. Maybe he did. I walked home alone, the cold air slapping my face, keeping me awake. At my apartment, I played the voice note again. I sat in the dark and let their words run through me like fire. She kissed him. He kissed her. They thought I couldn't hear. They thought I wouldn't care. I whispered into the dark, "I hear you." It felt like something cracked open inside me. Something cold, something old. I'd been quiet for too long. I reached for my notebook, the one no one knew about, and started writing. Date, Tom. Voice note title, targets, Leo, Lena, Hannah. Action, observe, record, prepare. I closed the book and smiled to myself. A new kind of smile, not soft, not fake. Sharp. The kiss I wasn't supposed to hear. He played the voice note again the next morning. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I wanted to remember every word, every sound. She doesn't know. She never hears anything anyway. It wasn't just the kiss that broke me. It was how small they thought I was. Like I didn't matter. Like I was just there. Background noise. A shadow. I stared at my ceiling, blanket over my mouth, and whispered, "I hear you." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I wanted to throw things, cry, collapse, but no. I needed all that energy. I needed to stay clear. Focused. So I got up, showered, and tied my hair up the same way I always did. At work, I signed good morning to Jay, who handed me coffee and gave me a look. Not pity, not worry, just awareness. Like he saw something was different. He was right. Miss Carr waved me into her office. Arya, could you run a check on Leo's last client presentation? She asked, without even glancing up from her screen. I nodded. She kept talking. He's missing 3 slides from the approved pitch, but don't mention it to him yet. I need to know if he copied them from yours. Not that I think he would, but just check, silently. Of course. She laughed. I didn't. I walked out with a folder of lies and a smile she didn't deserve. In the break room, Hannah leaned against the counter. She looked nervous. Hey, she said softly. I raised my hand, pretending to adjust my scarf. Her lips moved carefully. I saw you last night. You look tired. I nodded. Is everything okay? She asked too quickly. Her voice cracked on okay. I just smiled. She looked down. If you ever need anything, I'm here. You mean if I ever need someone to lie to my face? I wanted to say it. I wanted to throw my coffee at her and scream. You knew. But I didn't, not yet. Instead, I tilted my head slightly and signed. Thank you. Her eyes watered. She blinked fast and rushed past me, guilty. Every move they made was dripping guilt. Lena texted me that afternoon. A photo of her and Mom in the kitchen, baking cookies. Lena, wish you were here. Miss you. I stared at it for a while. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to know how someone could smile so sweetly with poison in her mouth. Leo didn't text at all. Of course not. He was the type to wait, to let things die down, to pretend it never happened and hope I'd stay mute like always. I went home early that day, told the front desk I was sick. Jay walked in later with takeout and a look. He signed, "You okay?" I signed back, "Getting there." He nodded and said nothing else. He was good at that, at giving space without disappearing. Later that night, I put on headphones not because I needed them, but because it felt like armor, and I opened my notebook again. Notes. Leo used my work. Lena kissed him, then acted like family. Hannah saw, stayed. Silent. Ms. Carr suspects Leo already. Cass. Why help me? I wrote her name with a question mark. I didn't trust anyone, not fully. But Cass had handed me the match. Now it was my fire. I started making folders, cloud backups, a secret email with no recovery option. I saved the voice note and added captions to it manually. If I ever needed to share it, I wanted them to read. Their shame in plain text. I stared at the file name. Kiss-07 PM-rooftop.m for A. So casual, so ordinary. But it was the start of everything. I didn't sleep much that night. I sat in my bed, eyes open, watching the ceiling fan spin and spin. This time, I wasn't going to break. I was going to become the one thing they didn't expect. A mirror. Listening to least people tell the truth when they think no one's listening. So I listen all the time. I started sitting closer to doors left ajar. Stood near glass walls where voices bounced. Pretended to scroll through emails while watching reflections in darkened screens. Every moment became a chance to collect a piece of the truth. At work, Leo passed me in the hallway. Hey, he said softly, like nothing had changed. I didn't respond, just looked past him, as if I hadn't heard. He exhaled sharply and walked away. I followed the way his shoulders dropped when he thought I wasn't watching. He knew. I caught Cass near the copier. Thank you. I signed slowly. She glanced around, leaned in. Just be careful, okay? Some people don't like being exposed. I tilted my head, my silent way of asking, why help me? She shrugged. Because they deserve it, that was all. Later that day, I sat in a meeting with Miss Carr and 3 other team leads. Leo joined late, looking flustered. Miss Carr scowled. You're 2 weeks behind on the client revisions, Leo. I've been managing multiple portfolios, he said, sitting beside me like we were still something. She pointed to the monitor, then explained why Arya's version from last month matches yours word for word, including the typo on slide 6. I didn't flinch. Leo glanced at me, then back at Miss Carr. We collaborated. She must have forgotten to mention it, liar. I typed something quickly on my laptop and turned the screen to her. I did not share my slides. I don't collaborate without approval. Miss Carr raised an eyebrow, then looked at Leo. Interesting. He didn't respond. Back at my desk, I opened my notebook again. Asterisk pattern of behavior. Lies under pressure. Blames others. Avoids confrontation. Asterisk Lena sent another photo. This time, it was her dog and Leo on the couch. I knew the pillow. It was from our apartment. He took it when he needed space. Lena, he looks good with Max, doesn't he? I didn't respond. She was playing, testing how much I knew. I let her play. Hannah texted next. Hannah, I'm worried about you. You've been so quiet lately. I stared at the screen. The irony made me laugh. Hannah, I miss you. I hate how distant we've become. You helped build the distance. I typed nothing. Just saved the messages. Proof. Digital fingerprints of cowardice that evening. I visited Dr. Singh again. She greeted me like I was a puzzle she wanted to solve. You're speaking now, she said. I needed to. I replied. She nodded slowly. You said silence makes them honest. And what does speaking do for you? I thought about it. Speaking is the warning, I said. The silence is the setup. But once I talk, they'll know it's too late. Her pen paused over her notepad. That sounds like revenge. No, I whispered. It sounds like truth. She looked at me for a long time. And what do you want, revenge or peace? I didn't answer, because I didn't know yet. On the way home, I passed a street performer playing violin. The music was soft, sad, familiar. It reminded me of being little, of when Lena would turn up the TV to loud so I wouldn't hear her sneaking out, of how Leo used to whisper things into my neck when I pretended to sleep, of how Hannah sat beside me in silence even when she should have screamed. None of them had ever been quiet out of kindness. They were quiet because they thought I wouldn't notice. Now, I noticed everything. I got home and found Jay in the kitchen, boiling water. He looked up and sighed. How was today? I paused. Then I said out loud, louder. He smiled. Good. I poured tea and sat at the table, letting the heat warm my hands. It wasn't about screaming. It wasn't even about punishment. It was about showing them that I've been here the whole time. Watching. Listening. Waiting. I speak to one persona. Singh asked me once, why now? Why speak at all? I didn't answer her then. But the truth is, it's not about speaking to everyone. It's about speaking to the right person. Cass left a sticky note on my desk today. Conference room, 5 p.m. Come alone, no emoji, no explanation. Just the dot at exactly 5. I walked in. She was already there, laptop open, eyes serious. She slid a USB drive across the table. Backups, just in case. I blinked. You're not crazy, Arya. I believe you. I've seen the way Leo operates. And Lena's, she's not subtle. I sat down slowly. She looked me in the eye. You don't need to stay quiet anymore. I didn't respond, but my fingers closed around the drive like it was a lifeline. Look, she continued. I don't know what your endgame is, but I know how dangerous they are when they think they've won. I looked down, thought about the voice note, the texts, the pictures, the lies. They haven't won, I said. Kiss nodded once, then finished it right the next day. I met Omar. Dr. Singh gave me his number. He is a lawyer, she said. Not the courtroom kind, the kind that handles things off the record. We met at a bookstore cafe downtown. I arrived early. He arrived 5 minutes earlier. Arya. He greeted me, shaking my hand firmly. I've read your notes. Already? I read fast, he said with a small grin. Also forwarded me the audio file and the screenshots. You have more. I slid over a folder. Handwritten notes. Time-stamp. He flipped through it slowly, nodding. This is clean. Angry, but clean. I don't want chaos. I said. I want control. Good. He said. Because chaos is easy. Control. That takes planning. Timing. I've been timing everything. I whispered, for weeks. He leaned back, arms folded. Then we're on the same page. I looked at him. If I do this, if I expose them, there's no going back. There never was, he replied. I started planning the dinner. A family dinner. Lena loved those. Loved putting on aprons and playing the perfect older sister. Loved being the center of attention. So I gave her a spotlight. Mom would love a dinner with everyone, I told her. Through text. Lena. Oh my God, YSSSSS. I'll help plan, of course you will. Leo didn't reply when I invited him then. An hour later. Leo, if this is about everything, can we talk after? I didn't respond. You don't get to talk first. Not this time. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, trying on dresses. One was soft blue, the kind Leo said made me look safe. Another was deep red, the color Lena always avoided because it clashed with her skin. I chose both. Red underneath, blue on top. Soft above, fury beneath. Perfect. The morning of the dinner, Jay found me in the kitchen, slicing fruit like it had betrayed me. He signed. You okay? I spoke this time. I'm ready. He didn't ask for details. He just nodded and handed me a knife. Make them choke, he signed, smiling faintly. I smiled back. At 6 p.m. Everyone arrived. Mom brought flowers. Aunt Miriam brought judgment. Lena brought a cake. Leo brought silence. I greeted each of them like nothing had changed. Hannah didn't come. To bad. I'd saved her a seat. Dinner was loud. Lena laughed too hard. Leo drank too much. Aunt Miriam commented on my outfit. You're dressing more like your sister these days. Exactly. At dessert, I stood, pulled my phone from my pocket. Tap. Play. Leo's voice filled the room. She doesn't know. She never hears anything anyway. Lina's laugh. You kissed me first. Remember. The room went still. I didn't speak. I let them hear every second. Mom's fork hit her plate. Aunt Miriam gasped. Leo stuttered. Arya. I held up a hand. No. I said. My voice was quiet, but it felt louder than any scream. You don't get to talk. Not anymore. Lena shot up. This is a joke. This isn't what it sounds like. It's exactly what it sounds like. I said. I turned to Mom. I didn't stop talking because I was weak. I stopped because no one listened. But now, you're going to hear me. Double quote silence. Then Mom spoke, voice shaking. What do you want, Arya? I looked around the table, at the people who betrayed me, at the people who sat and watched. Nothing, I said. You can keep your cake. I walked out, red dress flashing from beneath the blue. Let them wonder what else I've been hiding. Breaking without sound. It didn't cry after the dinner. I thought I would. But when I got home, I sat on the floor, kicked off my shoes, and laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was over. The pretending, the swallowing, the silence. It was all out now, spilled across the table like the wine Leo knocked over. When I hit play on the recording, they didn't even try to deny it. Not really. Lina's face went pale. Leo looked like he wanted to disappear. Aunt Miriam kept mumbling about shame and family business. But even she didn't know who to point her finger at. For once, it wasn't me. I sat there, staring at the ceiling, playing it over in my head. Their faces, they're stunned. Silenced their attempts to talk over each other once the shock passed. And I had said almost nothing. That was the best part. The next morning, Leo called. I didn't pick up. Then a message came in. Leo, please, just talk to me. I didn't want to hurt you, Leo. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. Leo, I was drunk. confused, lonely. You were pulling away from me. There it was, the deflection. The pity bait. I typed back, one mind. Me. You told her I wouldn't care. He didn't reply after the dot later. Lena sent me a long text that began with "You don't understand what I was going through," and ended with "Can we fix this?" I turned my phone off. I needed peace. Not another storm dressed like an apology. I met with Omar at a cafe 2 days later. He ordered coffee for both of us. I need show, he said. I wanted to wait. I told him, let them stew a little. He smiled. Good choice. Sometimes the silence after the explosion is the loudest. I handed him a new file. Photos of Leo using my presentation slides in meetings. Screenshots of Lena forwarding company intel to her friend at a competitor firm. Dates, times, watermarked documents. You've been busy, he said, impressed. I've been paying attention. He looked over the folder. So, what now? I sipped my drink. We release it, slow, quiet, just enough to make them squirm. Omar nodded. You're surgical. I like that. It's not about ruining them, I said. It's about making them look at themselves and hate what they see. He leaned forward. And if they still don't care, then I'll make the world care. He tapped the table. We'll start with your boss. I met Miss Carr in her office. Just the two of us. She offered me tea like she hadn't once ignored my work being stolen. I know what Leo did, I said calmly. She froze. And I know you knew. Her eyes narrowed. That's a serious accusation. I slid a printed email across the desk, Leo forwarding her my original slides, pretending they were his. She read it, said nothing. Then, what do you want, Arya? Credit, an official correction sent to the board, and a formal apology. She hesitated, and if I say no, I leaned in, then I send everything to the compliance office, and your name's on half the emails. We stared at each other for a long moment, then she sighed. You'll have your correction by morning. I stood. One more thing. She looked up. I wasn't born quiet. You made me that way. And I walked out. That night, I sat in my room, letting silence wrap around me. Not because I had to, because I chose it. Jay knocked on the door. You okay? He asked softly. I opened it, let him in. I played the recording. I said, at dinner. He didn't flinch. Good. They didn't even fight it, because they knew. I looked at him. Why do people think silence means weakness? He shrugged. Because they're loud and scared. You're quiet and watching. That made me smile. Jay reached into his pocket and handed me a flash drive. What's this? Cass gave it to me. Said you'd want it. I plugged it into my laptop. A video. Leo arguing with someone in a stairwell. You don't understand. He hissed. She was never going to speak. I thought she'd just disappear. The other person laughed. You're such a coward. I saved the video. Another piece of the puzzle. Another bullet in the chamber. But I didn't feel like firing it just yet. Not tonight. Tonight, I'd let the silence sit with them. Let them wonder what came next. Let them break on their own. When Karma learns my meet started small. Leo got demoted. Not officially. No one said the word out loud. But his name disappeared from the big accounts. His desk got moved near the window printer. He started showing up late, leaving early. And when he walked into the break room, people stopped talking. He tried to talk to me once more. Cornered me by the elevators. Arya, please, he started. I stepped back. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, he said, voice low. You weren't supposed to hear. But I did. He flinched. I thought you couldn't. I'm not the one who couldn't. I said. You couldn't. Stay loyal. Couldn't stay honest. The elevator dinged. I stepped in. He stayed behind. Didn't try again. Lana's spiral was louder. First, her socials went dark. Then she stopped showing up to brunches with our mutuals. Then I started getting anonymous messages. Did you really sleep with your sister's boyfriend? Wow. Cold. Trash. I knew they were aimed at her. Someone leaked the screenshots. Not from me. Not directly. But things find their way. She called twice. I let them ring. Third time, I answered. You happy now? She said, her voice cracking. Double quotes, no. Double quotes, her breath hitched. Because happiness doesn't come from tearing others down, I said. It comes from knowing you didn't let them keep you small. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I said. You made a choice. Repeatedly. Mistakes don't last months. She was silent. Then, we were both hurting. I didn't think you'd care. You never said anything. You always just watched. I watched, I said. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You give them room, she cried. But I didn't feel bad. Not this time. Ms. Course sent a company-wide email that we acknowledged past oversights and project attribution, named me directly, gave me full credit, public, undeniable. Omar forwarded it to me with one line. Told you so. I started taking long walks, not to run away from things, but toward myself. At the park, I sat on a bench. Kiss joined me with 2 iced coffees. You good? She asked, getting there. You look lighter. I smiled. They taught me something. Oh yeah? That silence isn't weakness. It's a weapon, if you know how to use it, she laughed. Damn, that's kind of badass. I sipped the coffee. It's quiet karma. People think it comes like thunder. But sometimes, it's a whisper in their own voice that eats them alive. Deep, accurate, she nodded. I'm glad you're not pretending anymore, me. So we sat there in silence. This time, a kind one. I went home that night and found an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a card, blank, except for one thing. You didn't deserve any of it. No signature. No return address. But the handwriting was Hannah's. I hadn't seen her since the dinner. She left before dessert. Never said a word. And somehow, that was the worst part. Because I had counted on her to say something. To say anything. But now, I sat on my bed, holding the card. I didn't cry, but I didn't smile either. Because regret from someone who stayed silent during your pain doesn't hit like healing. And it's like cold water when you're already dry. It wakes you up, but it doesn't warm you. Later that night, I stood in front of the mirror and said it out loud. I forgive you. Not to anyone in particular. Not because they deserved it, but because I needed to be done carrying their weight. I had other things to carry now, about like the future. Even the quiet and Barney thought forgiveness would feel like peace. It didn't. It felt like standing in the ruins of a house that burned down, one I built with my own hands. Knowing I struck the match. It wasn't guilt. Not exactly. It was clarity. I didn't forgive because they asked. I forgave because I was done bleeding for people who never once noticed I was cut. Still, the fire left a mark. And even the quiet can burn. A week passed. Then one morning, Hannah showed up at my door. I didn't move when I saw her through the peephole. She knocked. Again, Aria, she said softly. Please, just let me say one thing. I opened the door. Only halfway. Her face looked thinner. Tired. I didn't know what to do. She said, at the dinner. I froze. You watched me press play. I said, you saw it coming. I didn't think you'd actually do it. I didn't think you wouldn't. Her eyes welled up. I panicked. I thought if I stayed silent, I wouldn't have to choose sides. You did. I said, you just didn't say it out loud. I was afraid, she whispered. Afraid you'd never forgive me. I leaned my head against the door. I wanted you to speak up for me. I said, just once, not yell. Not fight, just stand beside me. I'm here now. I opened the door the rest of the way. Then start from the truth. I said, don't spin it. She stepped inside. I knew about Leo and Lena, she said quietly. 2 weeks before the dinner, Lena told me. I begged her to stop. I told her it was wrong, but you didn't tell me. I thought, maybe if I stayed close, I could keep it from getting worse. It did. I know. We stood in the living room like strangers. She looked around. You still have the wind chime I made. I nodded. It's cracked. So are we. I stared at her. I don't know if we can fix this. I said. I don't either. She replied. But I had to try. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. But I didn't close the door behind her either. And maybe that was enough. Or got better. Not easier, but clearer. People started listening when I spoke in meetings. Actually listening. Omar and I pitched a new strategy that got greenlit immediately. You've changed, he told me. I just stopped being small. You were never small, he said. They just kept putting you in corners. I smiled. And I finally walked out. Lena sent me a voice memo. It started with a sob. I lost the contract. She said, the one I've been chasing for a year. They said they couldn't trust me. Silence. Then. I know it's my fault. I miss you, even if you hate me. I didn't reply. Not because I hated her, but because missing someone doesn't erase what they did when they had you. Sometimes, silence is an answer. And sometimes, it's a mirror. Leo transferred departments, lower position, no client access. Rumors said he was rebuilding. I hoped he was. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted distance. He passed me once in the hallway. Didn't look up. Neither did I. We were ghosts now. Just memories in a space we used to fill. One night, Jay and I sat on the roof of our building, watching the city lights flicker like restless stars. You ever think about leaving? I asked. All the time. He said. But you'd still be here. So I don't. I nudged him. You're a sap. You're a flame, he said. I blinked. What? You burn quiet, but you still burn. I didn't answer, but the warmth in my chest did. Later that night, I wrote a letter to myself. Dear Arya, you were never weak. They just called you that because you didn't scream. But strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's walking away. When they expect you to beg. Sometimes it's standing alone and still choosing grace. You survive what they did to you in silence. But now, you live in your own voice. Don't forget that. I folded the letter, slipped it into my journal. And for the first time in a long time, I slept without dreams. Closure tastes like quiet. He always thought closure came with a bang, some final confrontation, some dramatic, full-circle moment that ties it all up with a bow. But real closure, it's quiet, like setting down a bag you didn't realize you were carrying. I saw Leo again, not at work, not in passing. At the grocery store. He was in the canned soup aisle, staring at a dented tomato bisque. I almost walked the other way, but then he saw me. His eyes widened just a little, and for a moment, it looked like he might speak. He didn't. I grabbed a can of chickpeas and kept moving. No words, no nods, no fate, strange smiles, just nothing. And somehow, that felt right. Like the final page in a chapter I no longer reread. Lena posted a photo that week she was at a beach. Somewhere. The caption said, healing isn't linear. Someone tagged me in the comments. I didn't engage, not because I wasn't curious, but because I didn't need to be pulled back in. She could heal. She could post. She could move on. So could I. Just differently, without the need to perform. I started speaking again, not just at work, not just to my friends, but to myself. Out loud. I'm proud of you, I'd whisper after hard days. You didn't fold, you stood back up, sometimes. I said it in the mirror, sometimes, while brushing my teeth. Sometimes, walking home in the rain with tired feet. It didn't matter where. What mattered was that I heard it, from me. Because for so long, I had waited for others to say it, and maybe they never would. But I didn't need them to anymore. I visited Mom. She opened the door and gasped, "You cut your hair." I smiled. Felt like it was time. She reached out, touched the short ends. "You look older." I feel older. We sat in the kitchen, tea between us. She poured mine without asking how I take it, still remembered. "Tell me, She said, so I did. All of it, the lie, the betrayal, the dinner, the fallout, the silence. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. I'm sorry they did that to you. She finally said. I let them. I whispered. No. She said firmly. You trusted them. That's not the same. I nodded. We didn't talk about Dad. We didn't need to. Some betrayals go too deep for words. But in her eyes, I saw understanding, and for once, I didn't feel like the weak one for being soft. A few days later, I passed a street musician playing the violin. The same tune Lena used to hum in the mornings. I froze. The sound wrapped around me like memory. But instead of pain, it was just sound. Music. Not a trigger, not a wound, just a note in the air, fading with the wind. That's when I knew I was really free. Hannah came by again. This time, with a plant. I read somewhere that green helps restart friendships. She said awkwardly. I took the pot. It was ugly and perfect. Thanks, I said. She sat on the floor while I watered it. Is this okay? She asked. Us. Trying again. I shrugged. Not the same. But maybe that's the point. We didn't talk about the dinner, or the silence, or the weeks in between. We talked about a new show, and coffee brands, and the coworker who microwaved fish. It was light, not fake, just light, a new kind of weightlessness. Maybe that's what healing looks like, not forgetting, but choosing what to carry forward. Omar and I stayed close, not in a romantic subplot kind of way, just real. Respectful. Unshaken. He never tried to fix me. He just made space and stood in it with me. One day, he left a sticky note on my desk. You're the main character now. Don't forget. I didn't. I went back to the rooftop, alone this time. The city stretched beneath me like a living map. I closed my eyes, listened. No yelling. No lies. No echo of betrayal. Just a when. And me. Hold. This is what healing sounds like. I used to think healing would sound like applause. Like people finally seeing me. Loving me. Choosing me. But healing? It sounds like silence. Like walking into my apartment and not checking my phone for messages that never come. Like making tea without replaying old arguments in my head. Like breathing without waiting for the next betrayal. I started journaling again. Not the angry, tear-stained pages I used to write in, but something new, lighter, simpler. Honest. One entry just said, I don't want them back. I want me back. And I think I am. I donated the necklace Leo gave me. The one with the tiny gold locket. It used to feel like love. Now it just felt like weight. I didn't cry. I didn't pause. I just let it go. Some things aren't souvenirs. They're shackles. And I was tired of dragging ghosts. I stopped avoiding the mirror. Stopped shrinking in rooms that didn't see me. Stopped explaining my silence like it was something to apologize for. People started noticing. Not because I got louder, but because I got clearer. I knew who I was. And I wasn't asking anymore. Lena texted again. Not a sob story this time. Just for words. Do you hate me? I stared at it for a long time. Then typed, no. I just don't trust you. I didn't send it for revenge. I sent it because it was true. She replied with one word. Fair. That was the last time we spoke. And that was enough. I ran into Jay on a rainy Tuesday. He was holding the coffees and somehow still had perfect hair. Still afraid of thunderstorms. He asked, handing me a cup. Only the ones I don't see coming. He laughed. You're deep now. I've always been deep. I said. You just weren't paying attention. He gave me a look. Proud. Warm. Familiar? Aria 2.0. No. I smiled. Just the original. Finally out of beta. I got a raise. Not because I begged, but because I earned it. The boss said, you've become indispensable. I smiled and said, I always was. You just had to notice. One night, I went through my old voicemails. I didn't cry. Didn't Flinch. Just listened. And then deleted them all, not out of anger, but because I didn't need them anymore. Some stories don't need to be kept to prove they happened. The scar is proof enough. I planted Hannah's little green gift and a bigger pot. It bloomed. Bright, messy, alive. So did we. In a way, not best friends. Not like before, but to people walking beside each other with nothing left to hide. And that felt honest. That felt real. I wrote another letter to myself. Dear Arya, you didn't get a perfect ending. You got a truthful one. You learned to say no without guilt. You learned that survival isn't weakness, it's power. You learned to stop performing peace just to keep people comfortable. And most of all, you learned this: sometimes healing isn't a sound. It's an echo that slowly fades. Until one day, there's just silence, and it doesn't hurt anymore. I sealed the letter and tucked it under my pillow. Not for safekeeping, just as a reminder that even quiet things can be powerful. Even broken girls can rebuild. Even endings that hurt can still feel right. I stepped out onto the balcony and let the city noise wrap around me. Not to drown anything out, but because this time, I wasn't hiding in it. This time, I was part of it. Breathing. Whole. Home.